Toronto Blue Jays just got some amazing news as we have multiple huge updates to go over today, including a couple of injury updates surrounding two pitchers that changed the outlook of this team going forward. To break down this new news and discuss what it means, but not only that, we do have a few other things to go over, including the Toronto Blue Jays making more moves and Ricky Tiedemann finally returning to the mound. Ton to go over today. We're also going to dive into, briefly, Team Canada moving on to the quarterfinals in the WBC. Ton to go over on this episode, ladies and gentlemen. Before we get into it all, just a quick thank you for all the support. You guys have been unbelievable. Opening day is just around the corner, and we have a lot to dive into today, ladies and gentlemen. And we also have some Trey Yesavage information. Let's start with that right here. So, Trey Yesavage finally got on the mound in spring, and yesterday he threw 35 pitches over 2 ups to Blue Jays minor leaguers on Wednesday, and he says, "It was good to be back out there. Defense behind me, facing a lineup. I'm happy with just getting to play baseball." And Yesavage says he doesn't know what next step in his buildup will be. So this isn't the amazing news. We have some big pieces of information to dive into in a minute here, but this is still very encouraging, right? To have Trey Yesavage, I guess, proven to everybody that he's not hurt. Teams always come out and say, he isn't, they aren't hurt, all these different things. It's nice to see him actually play. And the results weren't great, to be honest. I don't remember the exact stat line. It wasn't great, but the big piece of news here, he's back on the mound because he is supposedly going to be ready for opening day in a shorter inning stint, shorter inning role. So for him to be back throwing 35 pitches is very encouraging, especially given the fact that they said that they're going to be working, through his workload fluidly throughout the season. But we have some bigger news to go over surrounding a couple of key players, including Jimmy García and Shane Bieber. And you're going to want to stay tuned for this update. But before we get into it, I do want to let you guys know, ladies and gentlemen, that this video is brought to you by our friends over at AutoPlanet. And if you're in the Brampton or Durham region and searching for a great deal on a vehicle, AutoPlanet has you covered. They've got 2 convenient GTA locations. You can get out of the cold into Canada's largest used car showroom with more than 500 vehicles ready to explore. And right now, you can drive away in a new car for as low as $49 a week with $0 down. Every vehicle comes with a standard warranty, and if you're not completely sure the car is the right fit for you, you're protected with a 7-day, 750-kilometer return policy. So whether it's your first ride, family upgrade, or just something new to freshen your driveway, there's a huge range to choose from, and you can even reserve a car today for just $99 and take advantage of flexible financing and payment options that work with your budget. The team at AutoPlanet keeps the process clear and stress-free from start to finish, so make sure to check out the link down below in the description and the pinned comment to explore their universe of cars and find your next ride today. And thank you once again to AutoPlanet for sponsoring this video. Folks, check them out. It also helps me out a lot here if you're enjoying the daily videos. Allows me to keep doing them. Let's dive into the big update here. So, as I mentioned in the intro there, Ricky Tiedemann has resumed throwing on just a couple days ago. So, we're going to start with that, and we're going to dive into the bigger updates in a minute here. So, Ricky Tiedemann returning is crucial because his years over the past couple years now have been riddled with injury. And coming into spring training, there were talks, including myself, about how he should be the guy to potentially be that left-handed arm out of the bullpen, sorry, and can kind of figure things out there. He got hurt earlier in spring. To see him back now, at least throwing, is very good. Now, the obvious answer here is, or question rather, is will he be able to be healthy throughout the season? How is he going to do there? We don't know yet, right? We're going to have to see. He struggled to stay healthy throughout his career, but the fact that he's back throwing is absolutely crucial, and honestly has me pretty excited. He missed all of last year, of course, with his injury, and then, of course, the year before that, he only pitched in 8 games. So we haven't really seen a full, even decent sample size of Ricky T since 2023. And we all remember, I think it was the 2023 spring training, when he went up there, was throwing 98, 99, blowing past and blowing by MLB hitters, and we all thought he was going to be the next, Nolan Ryan. Jokes aside, we all thought he was going to be very good. Ultimately, didn't really translate. Got hurt, of course, and we're going to have to see now what happens with him. But for him to be back there is very good. But what else is very good is Shane Bieber, you can see at the bottom, and Jimmy García are continuing throwing on flat ground. But we got an update from John Schneider revealing that they remain on similar progression schedules, cycling through lighter and heavier work days, according to John Schneider. Both continue to throw on flat ground. Still no timeline for pitching off of a mound yet. However, and this is the big part, Jays have been pleased with their progress. So this is very good news because a couple different things here. One, they desperately need Jimmy García. And obviously Shane Bieber is, the better pitcher overall, but Shane Bieber is going to be crucial for the starting rotation, all these different things. They need another bullpen arm, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm still hoping that Ross Atkins is going to squeeze out a buzzer-beater last-minute trade to get a bullpen arm, whether that be to get JoJo Romero of the Cardinals, lefty, or someone else. You look at the bullpen down there in the bottom right? You have Jeff Hoffman, Jimmy Garcia, Tyler Rogers, and Louis Verland. And Jimmy Garcia is going to miss the start of the year, supposedly. So then you're stuck with Hoffman, Rogers, Verland. And then outside of that, there's a lot of question marks there, right? Like Brendan Little, what's he going to do? He was throwing 100 almost earlier this spring. Braden Fisher, how is he going to bounce back? There's so many question marks in the bullpen. We saw Yariel Rodriguez get lit up by Team Canada. So thank you to Yariel for doing Team Canada's service there. But despite that, like, there's not many good options, which sounds crazy. I'm not, hating on any of the players. When I say good options, I mean really dominant, serviceable, or not even dominant, just really, really surefire relievers. Braden Fisher, you could argue, is that. Tommy Nance had a good year. Am I expecting regression to a couple of those guys? Probably, but, who knows? Getting Jimmy Garcia back is going to be massive. And then you look at Shane Bieber. Outside of Shane Bieber in spring thus far, Barrios, Ponce, Cease, Gosman, and Scherzer, their spring trainings have been really, really good. Some of them obviously pitching more than others. Barrios up to 10 innings pitched. Cody Ponce has looked really good, a 1.5 ERA in 6 innings. People aren't really talking about that enough. Their rotation is fine. And having, Shane Bieber take a couple weeks off after the start of the season is fine, right? Have him slowly ramped up. Same thing with Jimmy Garcia, but for them to be on similar schedules, Bieber's supposed to be back within 2 or 3 weeks, or 4 weeks even. If Jimmy Garcia can kind of follow that 1, 2, 3, 4 week progression schedule and then come back and progress fast enough to actually get back into this team, they could be looking, because they do have a pretty tough schedule to start, they could be looking at a very, very good, duo coming back within the first month of the season. So that's going to be crucial. And it is very good news nonetheless. There's absolutely no setbacks. We've seen a lot of setbacks with Jimmy Garcia, so to get some positive news is obviously very encouraging. And then outside of that, we've also seen the Jays making a few moves, as they have announced they've agreed to contracts with 20 pre-arb players, including Yesavage, Berger, Schneider, Lucas, Little, and Verland. No renewals this year. And just to give you guys some context, this is mostly housekeeping. Doesn't fundamentally change much. And like many teams, the Jays have a formula. So not going to make this bigger than it is. It is important. These are pre-arb things, and I covered it in a video a few days ago. For Trey Yesavage to be good with this is very important. There's no ill will on either side just quite yet. So all good news, folks. This is a positive video. You have Trey Yesavage, of course, pitched the game yesterday. Looked felt comfortable, didn't get hurt or anything like that, which is all good. All good news overall. And speaking of good news, we'll dive into the Max Scherzer thing in a minute here. Jesus Sanchez continued to crush baseball. Says yesterday against Cam Schlittler during the USA game. I'm sure a lot of us were. I was watching the USA versus, or not the USA game. I guess it was Italy and Mexico to see if USA advances. During the Italy and Mexico game, Cam Schlittler, the guy who pitched in the playoff game against the Toronto Blue Jays, pitched to Jesus Sanchez, and Jesus Sanchez hit a ball 105.6 miles per hour. And we saw prior to the game yesterday, Thomas Hall saying, "Please enjoy these 9 seconds of Jesus Sanchez destroying baseballs during BP." I know a lot of you guys, my video yesterday, were calling me out for overvaluing Jesus Sanchez. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. I'm ready to eat my words. He is absolutely going to be insane.
For a moment there, it felt as though the clouds hovering over the Toronto Blue Jays spring training might refuse to budge. Injuries, uncertainty, and the usual preseason whispers had crept into the conversation. But suddenly, almost like the sun bursting through a stubborn storm, a wave of encouraging news has arrived. And here on the Blue Jays Report, we've got several major updates that could genuinely reshape the outlook for this team as opening day edges closer. Before we dive in, take a quick moment to like, share, and subscribe to the Blue Jays Report if you're excited for the season ahead. Trust me, the next few weeks promise drama, surprises, and perhaps even a few heroic comebacks. One of the most encouraging developments comes from the mound, where Trey Yesavage has finally returned to action during spring training. After weeks of speculation and cautious optimism, he stepped back onto the field and delivered 35 pitches against Blue Jays minor leaguers. It may sound modest, but in the world of baseball recovery, those 35 pitches felt like fireworks echoing across the diamond. Savage himself admitted it simply felt good to be back playing baseball again, and sometimes that alone tells a powerful story. The results on paper might not have been dazzling, yet the significance lies in the fact that he's healthy enough to build momentum again. The plan is to manage his workload carefully, possibly easing him into shorter stints early in the season, but even that possibility is a reassuring sign for a team eager to strengthen its pitching depth. And the good news doesn't end there. Another promising update involves Ricky Tiedemann, who has resumed throwing after a frustrating stretch of injuries that robbed fans of seeing his immense potential. For a pitcher once hailed as a rising star capable of blazing fastballs past major league hitters, simply being back on the mound feels like the opening chapter of a long-awaited comeback story. Meanwhile, both Jimmy García and Shane Bieber continue progressing through their recovery programs, throwing on flat ground as the team cautiously guides them forward. The organization appears pleased with their progress, which suggests reinforcements could arrive sooner rather than later. For a rotation that may soon lean on veterans and rising talents alike, those returning arms could prove absolutely vital. And as if the baseball gods wanted to sprinkle in a little extra excitement, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. continues to remind the world of his brilliance, smashing baseballs with the kind of authority that makes the bat sound like thunder cracking through the stadium air. So, while spring training began with uncertainty, it now feels as though the Blue Jays are gathering strength at precisely the right moment. Keep watching closely, because this season may yet unfold like a storybook filled with comebacks, power swings, and unforgettable moments. If you enjoyed this update, remember to like, share, and subscribe to the Blue Jays Report, where we'll be tracking every twist of the Blue Jays' journey as the new season finally arrives.